Welcome back. Another gunshot tragedy in the United States. A 3-year-old boy apparently shot and killed his mother by accident in the U.S. state of Oklahoma earlier this week. The victim, a 26-year-old Army veteran, was shot with a single shot as she was changing her 1-year-old daughter's diaper. Police believe the boy found a loaded handgun on a table and fired it at his mother's head. The children's grandmother found the bloody scene when she came home. The woman's husband, a truck driver, was out of the state at the time. A report said when the toddler was taken to be interviewed by specialists, he repeatedly said, "Mommy shot." Child specialists said the youngster confirmed what the evidence led investigators to assume. Tensions have eased somewhat on the streets of Ferguson, Missouri after 2 days of racially charged protests. The chaos was sparked by a U.S. grand jury decision to clear a white police officer over the killing of unarmed black teenager Michael Brown. As James Aiken reports, many are hoping the violence will lead to meaningful change.
As freezing weather grips much of the U.S., the demonstrations have dwindled. A ramped-up presence of National Guard troops is also helping to keep a lid on the tension. And locals are taking advantage of the lull to clean up and reflect.
I just want people to look at these businesses and see something else, see how people have come together in support of them and how people have come together in support of each other.
Privilege is real, racism is real, and I think that it's important that these organizations do grow and that we do have the conversation.
After meeting with the parents of Michael Brown, civil rights activist Al Sharpton stressed the difference between civil disobedience and violence.
Don't confuse those that are throwing bottles and looting with those that are putting themselves on the line to stand up for a cause. They ought to be applauded.
Meanwhile, Brown's mother says she's troubled by conflicting testimonies about the altercation between her son and Officer Darren Wilson.
If they ask you to do something, you're to do it. And I believe that he asked my son to stop. And I believe that's what he did. He stopped and he turned around to get down on his knees like the officer asked him.
But the fallout from the shooting continues to play out in the streets across the U.S. and far away from the U.S. In London, protesters clashed with police close to the House of Parliament. Back in Ferguson, residents are hoping that more people will have more to be thankful for next Thanksgiving.
I think the tension right now is justified, but I hope that everybody knowing what happened in Ferguson will help bring a change to our system.
James Aiken, TVB News.
There's a ray of hope in the fight against Ebola, with encouraging signs from testing on a vaccine. The vaccine appears to be safe and has triggered signs of immune protection in the first 20 volunteers in the U.S. Alan Booknier reports.
Testing of the vaccine began in early September on volunteers aged between 18 and 50. One half of the test group, who received higher doses of the vaccine, produced more anti-Ebola antibodies.
The results with the higher dose were really quite favorable. Virtually all of the people who received the higher dose got a very robust antibody response, which is the classical response that vaccines elicit.
While researchers reported no serious side effects, 2 volunteers briefly ran fevers of 39 degrees.
When you're dealing with vaccines, there are always little glitches that arise that might delay it one way or the other, but for the most part, we're hoping to start this much, much larger efficacy trial in first Liberia to determine if it actually works.
Dr. Fossey says they're hoping to start testing in the West African country in early January. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization says infections appear to be stabilizing or declining in Liberia and Guinea, 2 of the 3 hardest hit countries. And there is hope that the Ebola outbreak in Sierra Leone has reached its peak and is slowing down. Efforts to curb the outbreak in Sierra Leone are being marred by striking burial workers. Some of them removed deceased Ebola victims from a mortuary and lined them up outside a hospital to protest delayed payment.
This was an utterly despicable act and has been widely condemned. These people will receive all of their back payments, but will then be dismissed from the service.
The death toll from the outbreak has risen to 5,689 from the almost 16,000 people who contracted Ebola. Alan Bucknia, TVB News.
All right, Chris, over to you for sports.
Thanks, and sad news. Australian batsman Philip Hughes has died at the age of 25. 2 days ago, Hughes was struck in the neck by a ball during a domestic match in Sydney. He collapsed face first on the ground, and Hughes never regained consciousness and passed away in hospital. Tributes have been pouring in from teammates, opposing players and fans. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott said his death touched millions of Australians. Hughes played in 26 Test matches. He made his debut in 2009 at the age of 20 and became the youngest player to record 2 centuries in a single Test. Champions League now, and Liverpool were denied their first win in 5 matches. However, they still control their own destiny. Georgi Terziev of Bulgarian champions Ludogorets equalized with 2 minutes to go in the match, and the game ended 2-2. Ricky Lambert and Jordan Henderson were the goal scorers for Liverpool. Despite the draw, the Reds can still reach the knockout stages if they beat FC Basel in their last group match. Meanwhile, Arsenal will be making a 15th straight appearance in the last 16. The Gunners beat Germany's Borussia Dortmund 2-0. Yaya Sanago scored in the opening minutes, while Alexis Sanchez added another goal in the second half. Dortmund had already secured a spot in the next round. And Cristiano Ronaldo scored his 71st Champions League goal in Real Madrid's 1-0 win over Basel. Ronaldo moved to within 3 of Lionel Messi, who broke the tournament's goal-scoring record yesterday.
And finally tonight, the Japanese traditional craft of hand-making paper, washi, has been recognized on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity list. UNESCO started the list in 2003 to preserve art forms and traditions in the face of globalization. Washi is used as writing paper, but also for paper screens, such as sliding doors for room dividers. It's made from the kozo plant by soaking its skin in fresh water and using the fibers of the plant. Modern times and techniques to produce cheap paper have impacted sharply on washi, a long and difficult process. And that's the news for tonight.
Good night.